um, um, in your journey over your corporate work, as well as um, being a team coach for a football team, what has been your experience, and how the team's dynamic is different in both the template or same? Like, what has been your observation?
Yeah. So on the corporate side, I have a real strong mentor of mine who's a life coach and introduced me to the concept of that for a long time. I mean, it's already beginning to change, but for a long time, we worked in an industrial age mindset,
Hmm.
and that served us very well. It was very
Hmm.
successful. It, however, created an environment where people would come into the workforce, go to your cubicle, do your job, get it done well. Don't spend a lot of time talking. You've got work to do. We got to produce, and we've got to get the outcomes we're looking for. And if we look at today, what we're seeing in the workforce is a group of people who are entering the workforce who want much more of a meaning to what they're doing and have much more of a different experience around this, what I call intrinsic connection. And so, what that is requiring us to move into is what I call a collaborative, co-creative mindset. And so, if that's our challenge as leaders, how do we need to begin to adjust how we're leading and what kind of actions and steps we're implementing in the process in order to create and invite that kind of environment? And that's discomforting for people who have been used to leading in a way of get your work done, get it done well,
Hmm.
and produce as much as you can. And even to the point where, I even hate to say this word because it disgusts me in a certain way, and that is, let's motivate through fear. Let's get people doing what they need to do through fear. And that's just such a draining way to experience your career in such an unfulfilling way. But it just amazes me how many people I talk to when I ask them, what is your
Hmm.
primary feeling state while you're working? And they'll say it feels like a
Hmm.
burden. It feels like a
Hmm.
drain. And so I think corporate leaders who are not on top of this shift that's occurring to create this collaborative, co-creative inclusion, everyone has value. And I'm not suggesting that we all sit around a campfire and, comfort each other in a way that doesn't demand or require accountability or things of that nature. It's just that we have to be willing to open ourselves up to do that. On the athletic side, it's the same thing.
Hmm.
We've become
Hmm.
so ingrained on the extrinsic focus, the skill development, the results, the outcomes, the getting the scholarship, the playing Division 1 or playing basketball. We spend all time on the robotic side of development and skill set. It's necessary. It's part of the equation. You can never reach your fullest potential, your best self, without a true commitment to honing your craft. But if that's all there is to it, it also becomes this very emotionless experience. It becomes very draining like. And so this human side, this intrinsic side, because they're not learning it in the new environment that they're learning to play sports in, has to be part of the equation. Um,
No,
is
I
is
think
is
so. Yeah. So thank you for pointing us out. One thing that really stands out with what you're saying is, industry. You talk about industrial age mindset, right? That we are living in that, and I think when I was preparing for this session, what one thing that I was thinking about was how sports team are their mission is to win this game. There are a lot of creativities are involved, their passions are involved. But I think you pointed to something very interesting, that having this industrial age mindset, and it has been working for us culturally. Even if we are heart and mind is not at work, maybe sometimes fear used to work for some individuals. In fact, I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were terrified of their manager, but not willing to leave because it's breadwinner, and they just want to circle around. And somehow that culture is very much predominant in that ecosystem. It's very out there today. So, and now the pandemic has given us a very different perspective, right? So we used to be in very industrial settings. We go there, the cubicles involved, we all used to see each other slogging, so maybe monkey see monkey do, we'll also end up slogging. But now we are at our home, fighting our own individual battles, and somehow these battle needs to be collaborated to deliver a central outcome. So from your vantage point, as someone who studies the team dynamics and educate businesses around that, what has been your observation on how has the team dynamic changed over last 2 3 4 years, including the pandemic era, and going forward, how should we look at the teams?
So, as things changed as a result of COVID in respect to remote or virtual working environments, it obviously, to me, escalated this challenge we were having before that dynamic came into play. And what I mean by that is some of the common challenges that I've heard not only from corporations but from teams is things like trust. This idea that I trust my employer, I trust my leader, and vice versa, to the point that I feel empowered to speak my mind around ideas, strategies, actions, and plans that not everyone will agree upon, but at least it gets us thinking in a dynamic way and it doesn't have repercussions tied to it. Um, so that's just one example of many examples around this challenge of lack of trust. Now you can imagine when we begin to disperse people out
Hmm.
and they're now working in remote areas, right? And we're not in this team element, how much more of a challenge building trust is going to be. Okay. Because there are many positive sides that have enlightened people around renewed energy to have this flexibility to be in a remote virtual environment. The other challenge that I saw that was in place before this hybrid remote type of work environment was what I call empathetic listening. And this idea of truly, when you're present in a meeting, to have this ability to truly listen to what's being said in a way that that person who is speaking, you are totally present for, and not having an ulterior motive or agenda or a formulated response before the person is even done. And so, what happens in a remote hybrid environment, although we're going to get used to it, and I believe that it will eventually become effective, is
Hmm.
all of a sudden you're on a screen where you see maybe 10 people, and there are 20 other team members that are not on the screen because
Hmm.
it can't handle putting all those faces. And so, you don't know what the body language is, you don't know what
Yeah.
else is going on. You don't know what disruptions or distractions are occurring to pull us away from empathetic listening. It's going to be a huge challenge. There's important information that's going to be shared back and forth that might be missed because someone else is distracted by maybe their child who is also at home, or
Hmm.
they're busy reading something while they're, so you're not truly, the idea of being present is going to be so much more challenging.